1 million. That's not just a number. It's the count of people who watched me dismantle an entitled influencer's attempt to ruin my small bakery. She thought her online clout meant a free ride and a hefty discount. When I said no, she tried to destroy my reputation. What she didn't bank on was me, my phone camera, and the sweet, sweet justice of the internet. My response video didn't just get me 1 million views. It got her 0 discount, a tanked career, and for me, well, let's just say the exposure she promised finally came true, just not for her. This isn't just a story about a Karen. It's about how the perfect recipe for revenge can be even more satisfying than my award-winning chocolate cake. My name is Sarah, and for the last 5 years, my life has been a whirlwind of flour, sugar, and pure, unadulterated passion. I own The Sweet Spot, a home-based bakery that I built from the ground up, literally in my own cozy, slightly vanilla-scented kitchen. I specialize in those jaw-dropping custom cakes you see on Pinterest and artisanal cookies that have made grown adults weep with joy, or so they tell me. This isn't just how I pay the bills. It's my art form, my contribution of a little bit of beauty and sweetness to the world. As a baker and maybe a self-confessed perfectionist, the ultimate payoff is that gasp of delight, that sparkle in a client's eye when they see their creation for the first time. That's the magic. I started this journey with a mixer and a dream, baking for anyone who'd let me. Word of mouth was my best friend, and slowly, organically, I cultivated a small but wonderfully loyal following online, mainly through Instagram, where I'd share snaps of my edible masterpieces. My followers weren't just numbers. They were a community who appreciated the hours of meticulous work, the premium ingredients, the sheer love poured into every single order. My business model is simple: transparent pricing, honest communication, and always striving to give people more than they expect. 99.9% of my interactions are with genuinely lovely human beings, people excited for their celebrations, people who understand craftsmanship. My typical day? It starts before dawn, coaxing batter to life, spending hours hunched over a cake adding delicate sugar flowers, or piping intricate lace patterns onto cookies. It's demanding, often a solitary craft, but the fulfillment is immense. My kitchen is my haven, my creative studio. That was my normal, my cherished routine, until an email pinged into my inbox, an email that was the first ingredient in a very unexpected, very public drama. It began, as so many modern nightmares do, with an unsolicited email. The sender? Corinth Queen Bee Official. The tiny profile picture accompanying it was practically a caricature, a woman sporting a severely angled, aggressively blonde bob, the kind that almost universally precedes a demand to speak to the manager. I could almost feel the judgment radiating from that pixelated image. I get dozens of inquiries, so I clicked it open, anticipating a routine question about a wedding cake or a child's birthday party. The email itself was a masterclass in passive aggression, wrapped in a sickeningly sweet candy coating. Dear Sarah, it cooed, already a little too chummy for my liking, especially since she hadn't bothered to use my actual business name. I'm Karen, a premier lifestyle influencer right here in the city. Perhaps you're familiar with my platform, Corinth Queen Bee Official? My 50,000 plus followers trust my taste implicitly. I'd never heard of her, but I made a mental note of the follower count, a figure she clearly prized. She then lavished my cakes with the kind of vague, superficial praise that means nothing. So talented, just adorable, based on the quick peek she'd taken at my gallery. Then, like a well-rehearsed stage cue, came the pivot. I'm orchestrating an incredibly fabulous, highly exclusive birthday brunch next month at one of downtown's most chic spots, she declared. It's going to be the social event of the season, darling, swarming with other high-profile influencers. I would be simply thrilled to feature one of your magnificent large tiered cakes as the undeniable star of the show. Can you even imagine the incredible exposure? My internal alarm system, usually a gentle hum, began to clang like a 5-alarm fire. I scrolled, bracing myself for the inevitable catch. And there it was, artfully tucked into a paragraph brimming with buzzwords like synergy, brand alignment, and unparalleled opportunity. She wanted a custom-designed, three-tiered cake, the kind that represents days of my life and hundreds of dollars in ingredients, for absolutely nothing.
Zilch. Nada.
Or, if I was going to be difficult and insist on something as vulgar as payment, she might, out of the goodness of her influential heart, consider a token gesture of perhaps 25% of the actual cost. The amazing exposure she was dangling was, in her mind, a currency far more valuable than my skills, my time, my overheads, or my need to, eat. I let out a slow breath. This wasn't my first rodeo with a pay-me-in-exposure crowd, but this was a particularly brazen example. I'm a small business. Likes and follows don't magically transform into rent money or pay my wholesaler for Belgian chocolate. I carefully composed a polite, yet firm, response. I thanked her for reaching out, for her, however insincere, compliments. I gently explained that as an artisan soul trader, my prices were a direct reflection of the premium ingredients I refused to compromise on and the many, many hours of skilled, dedicated labor each bespoke creation requires. I offered to send her a detailed quote if she wished to commission a cake, and even attached my standard pricing guide. I clicked send, foolishly hoping a dose of professionalism would be the end of it. The speed of her reply should have told me everything. Less than an hour later, her response landed. The saccharine tone had vanished, replaced by an icy condescension. Frankly, Sarah, I'm taken aback, she wrote. An opportunity of this magnitude is rare, especially for a quaint home bakery. Most businesses would be falling over themselves with gratitude. The unspoken additions, unlike you ungrateful little nobody, hung heavy in the digital air. A flicker of anger sparked within me. A quaint home bakery? Yes, that's my business model, and I'm damn proud of the quality and personal service I offer. But her tone was designed to diminish, to make me feel small. I resolved to hold my ground. My reply was even briefer. I appreciated her perspective, but reiterated that I couldn't accommodate her request for a free or heavily discounted product. I wished her all the best with her fabulous event. That, I thought with a weary sigh, must surely be the final word. But Corinth Queen Bee official, it appeared, did not take kindly to the word no. Her next email dripped with disdain. I must confess, Sarah, my disappointment is profound. I genuinely believed you possessed the foresight to understand the immense value proposition I was offering. It seems your business acumen might not be as developed as your decorating skills. A pity, really. Pretty cakes alone don't build an empire if strategic marketing is beyond your grasp. My fingers curled into fists. Business acumen? I'd clawed my way here, transforming a passion into a profitable, sustainable venture through sheer grit, endless hours, and savvy financial management. The audacity. I felt a flush creep up my neck. I desperately wanted to unleash a torrent of facts and figures, to detail the sacrifices and smart decisions that kept my quaint home bakery thriving. Instead, I typed out a single, cold sentence. Thank you for your unsolicited advice. My position has not changed. And with that, I archived her entire email chain, determined not to waste another moment on her. A few days drifted by, and the sweet scent of baking soon pushed Karen and her entitled pronouncements to the back of my mind. I was immersed in crafting a complex gravity-defying cake for a milestone anniversary. Then my phone buzzed. A friend had sent me a screenshot. It was a tweet from Corinth Queen Bee official. So disheartening when small businesses are too short-sighted to recognize a lifeline. Some of us offer golden opportunities, but they get rejected. Their loss, I guess. Hashtag support small businesses, but only the smart ones, LOL. No names were mentioned, but the timing mere days after our exchange and the specific condescending tone felt like a direct hit. It was a classic passive-aggressive jab, vague enough to deny, yet specific enough to make my stomach clench. Was she actively trying to undermine me within her network? Then, about a week later, as if orchestrated, an online order pinged through for a dozen custom cookies. The name on the order form?
Karen.
My breath caught. This couldn't be a coincidence. The order itself was deceptively simple, a dozen vanilla sugar cookies. But the attached design notes were a novella of nitpicky demands, a very particular shade of pastel swirl, ethereally applied gold dust, not too much, not too little, you'll know, and tiny, individual initials on each cookie, piped in a font she vaguely described as effortlessly chic, like something you'd see in Vogue, but for cookies. The pickup was set for Friday afternoon. All week long, my inbox was bombarded with her minor adjustments and urgent clarifications. Regarding the blue, darling, it absolutely must be more of a muted duck egg, not that garish robin's egg. The distinction is critical. And the gold dust, it is the highest grade edible, isn't it? My palate is exceptionally sensitive. Each email invariably included a pointed reminder of the pickup time and a subtle dig about the price being rather steep for just cookies. The passive aggression was a constant, simmering hum beneath her every word. I meticulously saved every communication, confirmed every ludicrous detail with unwavering politeness, my irritation coiling tighter with each exchange. A knot of dread tightened in my gut. This was not going to end well. Friday afternoon rolled around. I'd channel my frustration into making Karen's cookies almost painfully perfect, each one a miniature testament to my restraint. My little front porch pickup area, designed to keep my home life separate from my business, was neat and welcoming. Mr. Henderson, a delightful elderly regular picking up his bi-weekly batch of lemon shortbread, was just toddling off with a smile as Karen's ostentatiously large, gleaming white SUV aggressively mounted the curb, hogging most of the narrow street. Karen emerged, a walking, talking stereotype. The notorious blonde, asymmetrical bob was even more severe in person, practically a weapon. Enormous designer sunglasses, the kind that scream, "I'm too important to make eye contact," were firmly in place, despite the dull, overcast sky. She was clad head to toe in a pristine, cream-colored athleisure ensemble that looked as though it had never been within a mile of an actual gym, paired with offensively bright, box-fresh white sneakers. A ridiculously large, logo-emblazoned, and suspiciously empty-looking designer tote dangled from her arm. Her nails, I noted with a grim sort of fascination, were long, Talon-like, and painted a vibrant, accusatory red, perfect for dramatic pointing. Her default expression was a carefully cultivated blend of boredom and disdain, lips pursed, one eyebrow perpetually arched. Corinth Queen Bee official, I presume? I managed, aiming for a breezy tone that my churning stomach didn't quite believe. "Yes, that's me," she announced, her voice a good few decibels louder than necessary for the quiet suburban street. "Here for my cookies." No smile, no greeting, just business. I presented the elegantly packaged box. "Here they are. I took special care to follow all of your detailed design specifications." She snatched the box and, without so much as a thank you, ripped it open right there on my porch, her eyes narrowing in exaggerated scrutiny. She plucked one cookie out, holding it mere inches from her face, rotating it slowly. "Umph," she began, her voice practically an opera of feigned disappointment. "The blue, it's definitely leaning more towards robin's egg than the sophisticated duck egg I explicitly requested. Wouldn't you agree?" I inhaled slowly. "I used the precise shade we discussed and which you approved via email. I even matched it to the digital color swatch you sent. I had that email chain practically memorized." "Well, it appears quite different in natural light," she insisted, her voice climbing in volume and pitch. "And this gold dust, it's rather overdone. Dare I say, a touch garish?" This after her specific instructions about it needing to be visible. My patience, already worn thin, was now fraying at an alarming rate. "You specifically requested a noticeable application of gold dust," I reminded her, my voice still measured, but with an edge of steel creeping in. A young mother pushing a stroller had approached and was now waiting, her expression shifting from polite patience to mild alarm as Karen's performance escalated. Karen, seeming to draw energy from the new audience member, pressed on. "And the initials," she scoffed, her voice now practically booming, "they're hardly what I'd call chic and modern. They look rather pedestrian. Childish, even." She was now openly sneering, holding a cookie aloft as if it were a particularly offensive insect. "Honestly, for the exorbitant price you demand for what amounts to flour and sugar, I was anticipating absolute perfection. These are profoundly disappointing." A dramatic, theatrical pause. "I believe, under these egregious circumstances, a substantial discount is not just warranted, it's required. 50% off, at least." And there it was. The endgame. This whole charade wasn't about the cookies. It was a calculated maneuver to bully me into giving her a discount, or perhaps even the cookies for free. My mind replayed her entitled emails, her condescending tone, her demands for a free cake. This was her modus operandi. Remembering my unease from her earlier communications, just before her arrival, I had propped my phone discreetly on a small wicker table near my front door, angled perfectly towards the pickup spot, and hit record on the audio. As her complaints had begun to escalate into full-blown Karen mode, I'd subtly tapped the screen to start video recording as well. My little porch didn't have CCTV, but my smartphone was proving to be an excellent substitute. I had a sudden, bone-deep certainty that this footage was going to be crucial. I drew a steadying breath, meeting her gaze. "I am sorry you feel that way, Karen," I stated, my voice intentionally calm and unwavering. "I meticulously followed every single one of your very specific design instructions, all of which you confirmed and approved in our email correspondence. The agreed-upon price reflects the custom, handcrafted nature of these cookies. I will not be offering a discount simply because you've decided, post-production, to change your mind about the design elements you yourself dictated." Her face contorted into a mask of indignation. "This is utterly unacceptable. Do you have any idea who I am? I am a major influencer. I was actually considering doing an entire feature on these cookies if they had met my standards. But now my 50,000 followers will hear all about this dreadful experience and your appalling customer service." "That is, of course, your prerogative," I replied, keeping my expression impassive. My heart was racing like a hummingbird's wings, but I'd be damned if I let her see it. I would not be intimidated. She let out an indignant snort, practically threw the exact cash amount for the cookies, no tip, naturally, I wasn't surprised, onto the small table, grabbed the box, and spun on her heel. "You'll be hearing about this," she shrieked over her shoulder as she stomped back to her gas-guzzling SUV, her ridiculously large, empty designer tote swinging like a wrecking ball. The young mom with the stroller gave me a wide-eyed, deeply sympathetic look. "Oh my goodness," she whispered. "Some people are just wow." I could only nod, a cold, clear plan already crystallizing in my mind as I reached down and stopped the recording on my phone. The audio was crisp, the video perfectly framed. She had no idea. Karen, ever the drama queen, was true to her parting threat. That very evening, my phone began to light up like a Christmas tree with a relentless barrage of notifications. She had, indeed, decided to share her truth with her followers, unleashing a coordinated smear campaign. One-star reviews, dripping with venom and outright fabrications, began to populate my Google business profile, my Yelp page, my Facebook business page, any online platform where my bakery had a presence. Baker was shockingly rude and utterly unprofessional from the moment I contacted her, one slanderous review proclaimed. Another wailed. The cookies were stale and tasted like cardboard. The decoration was sloppy, amateurish, and looked absolutely nothing like the sophisticated design I requested. My personal favorite was the one that declared, "She tried to blatantly overcharge me for a vastly inferior product. This so-called bakery is a complete scam. Avoid this amateur at all costs." To further amplify her campaign of lies, she posted a series of Instagram stories. One featured a heavily filtered, poorly lit, and frankly, deliberately mangled photo of one of the cookies. A perfectly piped initial was now smudged, a corner was mysteriously broken off. It looked suspiciously like she'd stepped on it before her dramatic photo shoot. Her caption was a tragic opera of her horrendous ordeal, with a local baker who clearly has no concept of quality or customer respect. A cold wave of dread washed over me as I scrolled through the onslaught of manufactured outrage. This wasn't just a disgruntled customer leaving a bad review. This was a calculated, malicious attempt to destroy my hard-earned reputation, to cripple the business that was my livelihood and my greatest joy. My blood began to simmer, then boil. How could anyone be so petty, so vindictive, so utterly dishonest, all because they were denied a discount they weren't entitled to? For a fleeting moment, despair threatened to engulf me. What if people actually believed her lies? What if her legion of 50,000 followers took her fabricated narrative as fact? Then, the image of my phone, diligently recording on the porch table, flashed into my mind. I had everything. Her saccharine then sour emails demanding the free cake, the audio of her initial condescending inquiries, and the crown jewel, the crystal-clear video footage from my porch. The video that unequivocally showed her aggressive nitpicking of perfectly good cookies, her voice escalating into a shrewish tirade, her blatant attempt to extort a discount, and my unwavering, calm, professional demeanor throughout the entire unpleasant exchange. The video that clearly showed the cookies, before she got her vindictive hands on them, were indeed exactly as she had ordered. A sense of cold, hard resolve solidified within me. She wanted to fight dirty?
Fine.
I would fight smart. The real twist wasn't just that she was an entitled, deceitful bully. The twist was that her monumental arrogance had made her sloppy. She had staged her public tantrum for what she perceived as a small, controllable audience, never for a nanosecond suspecting that her every word, every gesture, every lie was being meticulously documented. The evidence I possessed wasn't just compelling, it was irrefutable. Corinth Queen Bee official had messed with the wrong small business owner. That night, sleep was out of the question. Instead of fuming helplessly, I channeled my righteous anger into action. My confrontation wasn't going to be a screaming match or a messy, public mudslinging contest on social media. That's precisely what she would expect, probably even relish. No, my response was going to be surgical, factual, and utterly devastating to her meticulously curated, yet entirely false, influencer persona. I spent the next few hours in a state of focused calm, methodically editing. I wove together the narrative using her own words and actions as the thread. First, screenshots of her initial emails, oozing false charm while demanding freebies and massive discounts. Then, her increasingly condescending and insulting replies when I politely but firmly declined. I transitioned to the cookie saga. Screenshots of her ridiculously demanding order, the endless stream of last-minute, finicky clarifications. And then, the piece de resistance, the video footage from my porch. I made sure the audio was perfectly clear. Her loud, whining complaints, her imperious demands for a 50% discount. It was all there, juxtaposed with my calm, firm, and professional refusals. The video clearly showed the cookies, looking immaculate and exactly as ordered, when I handed them to her. For an extra flourish, I created a side-by-side comparison, a screenshot of her very first email, gushing about my beautiful cakes and talent, right next to a screenshot of her public review calling me an amateur baker with sloppy, disgusting work. The hypocrisy was stark and undeniable. I uploaded the completed video, a concise, evidence-packed 5-minute exposé, to YouTube. I rarely used YouTube for anything beyond the occasional cake decorating time-lapse, but this felt like the right platform for a visual takedown. I gave it a simple, direct, and keyword-rich title: My Unbelievable Experience with Entitled Influencer Corinth Queen Bee Who Demanded Free Products, then lied in reviews after being denied a discount. In the video description, I penned a brief, polite statement explaining the situation. I emphasized my belief in transparency and stated that I felt compelled to share my side of the story, supported by undeniable evidence, in direct response to the demonstrably false and damaging accusations she had leveled against my business. Once it was live, I took a deep breath and shared the YouTube link across all my bakery's social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook. I even replied directly to her fake 1-star reviews on Google and Yelp with a polite, "For full context regarding this review, including video evidence of the interaction, please see the following link." Then, I switched off my computer, my heart thrumming a chaotic rhythm of trepidation and a strange, exhilarating sense of empowerment. I had no earthly idea what would happen next. The next morning, my phone was practically levitating off the nightstand from the sheer volume of notifications. The YouTube video, it hadn't just gotten a few views. It was exploding. It had already rocketed past tens of thousands of views, and the counter was spinning upwards like a slot machine hitting the jackpot. Comments were flooding in, hundreds upon hundreds, and they were overwhelmingly, passionately on my side. People were incensed by Karen's blatant entitlement and dishonesty. "The audacity of this woman is absolutely breathtaking," one user commented. Another wrote, "As a fellow small creative business owner, this makes my blood boil into magma. Massive kudos to you for standing your ground, documenting everything, and exposing her vile behavior." Scores of people zeroed in on her classic Karen traits, from the infamous haircut in her profile picture to her hectoring tone in the video footage. Her pathetic attempt to weaponize her followers against my little bakery had backfired in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. In fact, the comment sections on her own social media pages, particularly under posts where she tagged luxury brands for her fabulous upcoming brunch, the one that was now forever cakeless, were being overrun with people referencing my video. They were tagging her directly, demanding she address the bakery video scandal. Some of the very brands she had so desperately tried to impress began to quietly, but very publicly, untag themselves from her posts or delete her fawning comments from their feeds. The incredible exposure she had so arrogantly promised was indeed materializing, but it was a harsh, unflattering spotlight, focused squarely and entirely on her. Throughout that surreal day, the view count on my video continued its meteoric ascent: 50,000, 100,000, 250,000. My bakery's social media accounts were experiencing an unprecedented surge, gaining thousands of new, genuine followers. My email inbox, usually a mix of orders and inquiries, was now overflowing with messages of support, admiration, and incredibly, a deluge of new order requests. People were explicitly stating they admired my professionalism, my courage in speaking out, and wanted to support a business that refused to be bullied. Karen, true to form, did not handle her public unmasking with grace. Late that afternoon, she frantically tried to have my video removed from YouTube, flagging it with a slew of bogus claims: harassment, privacy violation, defamation. YouTube's content moderation team reviewed it swiftly and, finding no violations whatsoever as I had meticulously presented only factual evidence and my own documented experience, rightly left it up. Defeated on that front, she embarked on a furious deleting spree across her own Instagram, desperately trying to scrub any comments that mentioned the video or criticized her actions. She even toggled her account to private for a few hours. But the internet, as Corinth Queen Bee official was rapidly learning, is like an elephant, it never forgets. The video was already mirrored and shared across Reddit, Twitter, numerous Facebook groups dedicated to chronicling entitled behavior and influencer meltdowns. Screenshots of her egregious emails and her fake reviews were becoming memes. By the end of that dizzying week, my video had blazed past the 500,000 view mark. Karen eventually, grudgingly, resurfaced with a quintessential non-apology apology delivered via her Instagram stories. It was a masterpiece of deflection and self-pity, full of vague platitudes about misunderstandings, everyone being entitled to a bad day, and how she has always been a staunch champion of small businesses. Predictably, no one was buying her insincere performance. The comments roasting her for her lack of accountability were swift and brutal. Her follower count, that precious metric she had wielded like a weapon, was now in freefall. I saw screenshots circulating online showing it hemorrhaging thousands of followers per day. Online sleuths even began unearthing other small business owners who shared eerily similar stories of alleged negative encounters with Corinth Queen Bee. The payoff wasn't just the relief of the truth being out. It was witnessing her entire carefully constructed, aggressively entitled online persona disintegrate under the undeniable weight of her own recorded actions, exposed for the world to see. And my little video? It just kept climbing. By the following Monday, it officially crossed the 1 million view threshold.
1
million views. It was utterly wonderfully surreal. The immediate aftermath was nothing short of a whirlwind. Karen's Queen Bee online dynasty crumbled with astonishing speed. Her engagement metrics plummeted into the abyss. Any lucrative brand partnerships she might have cultivated seemed to evaporate overnight. She eventually retreated into complete online silence for several weeks. When she finally reemerged, her content was noticeably different, more subdued, less arrogant, but the digital stain on her reputation was indelible. That 1 million view count on my humble video served as a permanent, glaring monument to public disdain for her particular brand of entitled chicanery. And as for me and the sweet spot,
It was like night and day.
my little bakery was, to my utter astonishment, suddenly internet famous. I was absolutely inundated, in the best possible way, with messages of support, heartfelt words of encouragement, and most significantly, a tidal wave of new orders. People from all corners of the city, and even from neighboring states, were eager to order my cakes and cookies. Many of them specifically mentioned the video, expressing their admiration for how I handled the stressful situation and their desire to support a business that stood for integrity and refused to be cowed. I actually had to temporarily suspend taking new custom orders just to manage the incredible backlog. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and deeply affirming. The profound irony of the situation was not lost on me for a single moment. Karen, in her infinite arrogance, had promised me amazing exposure. And in a way only the universe can orchestrate, she delivered on that promise, just not in the manner she had so confidently envisioned. She was the one who got exposed, thoroughly and comprehensively. And my bakery? We received the kind of genuine, organic, positive exposure that no amount of money could ever buy. Reflecting on the whole insane episode, it was undeniably one of the most stressful periods of my professional life. No one enjoys being targeted by malicious online attacks or having the business they've poured their soul into threatened by lies. But alongside that stress, there's an immense, quiet, and deeply satisfying sense of vindication. I stood up for myself, for the intrinsic value of my work, and for the simple principle of fairness. The entire ordeal hammered home a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the most potent response to ugly behavior is to calmly, factually, and very publicly shine a bright light on it. The 1 million views were, of course, incredible. The unexpected and transformative boost to my business was a dream I hadn't even dared to dream. But the absolute best part? That quiet, unshakable knowledge that justice, in this instance, wasn't just served, it was served with a cherry on top. And couldn't Queen be official? She got precisely what she deserved. Zero discount, zero credibility, and a heaping portion of internet infamy that she couldn't just filter away.